All right, so moving on. So we asked you about what emotions are, and I I would be really excited to know your answers to all these things. By the way, so if you wouldn't mind, just if it's not too personal, write it down in an email and send it to us because it would be really interesting to see your thoughts initially before we have these reflection meetings. And so, to me, about the emotions, so I feel like your body is an extension of your mind. And so any discomfort or any emotion, any pain, recurring pain that comes up in your body is some kind of extension of what's going on in your mind. And so just to start off, really, all emotions are completely natural. It's perfectly fine to feel angry sometimes, irritated, frustrated, stressed. It's absolutely fine. Whenever an emotion goes on and on and on and on, and you can't seem to get rid of it, that's when you should pay really close attention to what's going on. And always be very gentle with yourself when you're talking about your emotions. We asked you about what are good emotions and what are bad emotions, and I'm sure many of you said that anger is a bad emotion, and maybe frustration is bad, and maybe probably some of you said that sadness is bad. But we have to be more gentle and loving with ourselves. All emotions that show up are completely natural, and the easiest way to let them go is to let them be and really feel them and accept them and just sit with your emotions when they come up. If we could do that every single time an emotion came up, oh my God, we would be so zen. But we rarely find the time, but most of all, we just don't want to, because especially bad emotions, well, they don't always feel good, right? But when bad emotions are prolonged over a certain amount of time and you just can't seem to shake it, or maybe you just have this feeling of being, a little bit sad all the time, or you get so easily frustrated with people, or you get super angry, like really fast at people, really try to map out when these things happen, because this can be a roadmap to all the things that we talked about in the last video about the patterns you have, how your ego is trying to protect you. And so, what I usually do is when I get an emotion of any kind, really, I don't tend to put too much weight on the positive emotions because they are just good. I just try to ride that wave. But when anything bad comes up, I try my very best to observe when it happens, because the second I take the role of the observer, like we talked about in the beginning, I create a little bit of distance, and so the emotion is not as strong. And then when I have that kind of distance, I look at the situation I'm in and I try to figure out, what is it? Is there anything in this situation um, that is actually making it okay for me to have this feeling? And of course, it's always okay, but is it anything in this situation that should trigger that feeling? And it usually isn't. The emotion that comes up, and especially the ones that keep coming up, are usually because the situation at hand just reminds you of something that happened consciously, right? It reminds you of something that happened in the past, and your ego is giving you this emotion, and then for you to um, just to remind you that you are now in a situation where you should pay some attention and protect yourself. And that's what happens. And so the more we understand where these emotions are coming from, the easier it will be to handle them, and the more you will understand about your life. And I tell you, this is really, really interesting. And when you start uncovering these things about your life, it is incredible what comes up, and you feel so grateful to yourself, and you feel so much love for yourself when you do this, because it's like you're it's like you're cleaning up the mess of your childhood, you know? And you're allowing yourself to just be the person that you were always meant to be today. And for the time to come. And that's just such a beautiful thing. So observe your emotions. Try to understand that, again, the situation you're in is probably not the main issue. And again, I have to remind you that, if someone comes to you and pokes you in the shoulder 1,000 times, it's okay to be irritated. That's not because you are not, that you have some childhood trauma. That's absolutely fine. But be irritated for a second and say, I won't be having any of that. Stop doing it, and then leave. It's as simple as that. But if someone is just entering the room and you're irritated, then something else is going on. And so you go and check that out. All right, next week. See you then.